There's this huge invisible accounting system that keeps track of every single dollar, euro, and yen flowing between countries every single day. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it works and what it tells us about the health of the entire global economy.
I mean, really think about it for a second. When you buy a smartphone that was assembled overseas, or maybe a car from Germany, your money leaves the country. But when a tourist from another country comes to visit, their money comes in. And here's the thing, these aren't just random one-off transactions. They're all threads in a massive, interconnected financial web.
The scale is just mind-boggling, right? We're talking trillions of dollars crisscrossing the globe on a daily basis. It sounds like total chaos, but believe it or not, there's a surprisingly elegant system that brings order to it all. A system that every country on Earth uses to balance its books with the rest of the world.
Well, that system has a name, the balance of payments. You can think of it as the master scorecard for a country's global economic game. It tells us, in black and white, whether a nation is, on the whole, a net lender or a net borrower to the rest of the world.
So, the balance of payments, or BOP for short, is basically a country's annual financial report. It's this comprehensive record of every single transaction between its residents, that means people, companies, and the government, and everybody else on the planet. It gives us a really powerful snapshot of its international economic health.
Okay, so this national scorecard, it's really broken down into two main parts. And the relationship between these two, well, that's the absolute key to understanding how this whole system works.
All right, so it really all boils down to two key accounts. First, you've got the current account. This is kind of like the country's income statement. It's tracking the trade in goods and services, exports or credits, imports or debits. Simple enough. And then you've got the financial account. This is the investment side of the equation. It records all the buying and selling of assets, stocks, bonds, real estate. So if a foreign company builds a factory here, that's a credit, a plus, for the financial account.
Now here's where it gets really clever. These two accounts, they're basically two sides of the same coin. Let's say a country has a current account deficit, which just means it's spending more on foreign stuff than it's earning from its exports. Well, it's got to get that cash from somewhere, right? And that somewhere is the financial account, usually by attracting foreign investment to help cover the gap.
And this is the magic trick, really. By its very definition, the balance of payments has to balance. A deficit on one side is always perfectly offset by a surplus on the other. It's a totally closed loop where money doesn't just vanish, it's all accounted for.
And this isn't just theory, you can see it plain as day in the real world. Just look at the US. Back in 1980, it had a small current account surplus. But then, look at what happened by 2000 and 2017. As the US started importing way more than it exported, it created these huge current account deficits. And what do you see in the financial account? A near-perfect mirror image. A massive surplus showing a huge flood of foreign investment was needed to finance that trade gap.
But here's the thing, this isn't just some abstract accounting exercise for governments. The truth is, the balance of payments is actually shaped by millions of individual decisions made by all of us, every single day.
Okay, I know this equation looks a little scary, but stick with me because it's actually super powerful. What it's saying is that a country's private savings, all the money we put away, it has to go somewhere. It can be used to fund domestic investment by companies, it can finance a government budget deficit, or it can be invested abroad, which is what we see in the trade balance.
So let's break that down. What does this actually mean for us? Well, think about it. If we as consumers aren't saving a lot, there's less money available for our own local companies to invest. So if those companies still want to grow and build things, what do? They borrow from abroad. Same goes for the government. If it runs a big deficit, it also needs to borrow. All that foreign borrowing creates a surplus in the financial account and, you guessed it, a deficit in the current account. Our choices directly drive these big national numbers.
Now, this system is pretty elegant, but it isn't always a smooth ride. Countries can run these huge, persistent deficits for years. Trade disputes can erupt and get nasty. So that all leads to a really critical question. Is there anyone in charge here? Who are the referees in this massive global economic game?
And the answer is a big yes. See, after the chaos of World War II, global leaders got together and created a set of institutions to act as the referees for the global economy, all designed to keep the system stable and prevent major crises from ever happening again.
All right, first up, you've got the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The easiest way to think of them is as the world's financial firefighters. When a country gets into serious trouble with its balance of payments and it looks like it can't pay its bills, the IMF is the one that can step in with emergency loans to stop a small problem from turning into a full-blown global crisis.
Then there's the World Bank. Now, if the IMF is the firefighter, the World Bank is the architect. Its focus isn't on short-term emergencies. It's all about long-term development. It provides the financing and the know-how to developing countries for huge projects, like building roads, schools, and power plants.
And rounding out our trio, we've got the World Trade Organization, or WTO. This is the institution that literally writes the rule book for global trade. It oversees all the trade agreements, it helps countries negotiate new ones, and it acts as the umpire to settle trade disputes, making sure everybody more or less plays fair.
So let's just nail this down. The IMF is for short-term crises, the World Bank is for long-term development, and the WTO governs the rules of trade. Each one has a really critical but very distinct job to do.
Okay, so after all that, you might be thinking, why does any of this really matter? Why should I care about the balance of payments or these big global institutions? Well, because this system, it's the very bedrock of the modern world we live in.
Seriously, it's the reason you can buy that phone from overseas, it's why global companies can invest all around the world, and it's why the whole complex machine of international commerce doesn't just seize up and grind to a halt. It's the essential, but often totally unseen, plumbing of globalization.
All right, so let's quickly recap the big takeaways here. The balance of payments is a nation's global scorecard. Its two main accounts, the current and the financial, they always have to balance each other out. Our own decisions about saving and investing are what directly shape those accounts. And finally, institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO are there to provide the stability this whole complex system needs to work.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really big thought. The world is changing faster than ever. We've got the rise of digital currencies, massive disruptions to global supply chains, new geopolitical tensions. The system we've just talked about has been the foundation for decades of global growth. But the real question for the future is, how can it and the institutions that guard it evolve to meet the massive challenges of tomorrow?